Hi, and well, let's get to our first question. Our first question today is going to be a quadratics question. So it's one of the stranger questions. What they're asking us to do is to express this quadratic in this form. Now you notice you'll see a P, a Q, and a K. Obviously, our job is to find the values of P, Q, and K. So let's go about this question. First of all, I know it's a quadratic because there's an x squared, an x and something without an x. And they put the entire quadratic equal to 0. Right. Now, whenever you put a quadratic equal to 0, most of the times you're already trying to figure out where it cuts the x-axis. Now, where a quadratic cuts the x-axis is also known as solving a quadratic. And you may have recalled from the previous videos, this here is the quadratic formula and it allows you to solve the quadratic. So let's quickly identify A, B, and C and throw it into this formula, and we are going to try our best to simplify this formula, but we're going to pretend that we don't have a calculator. So let's get started. Let's identify A, B, and C. Well, x squared is the same thing as 1x squared minus 6 plus 7. So whatever touching x squared is A, so that means A is positive 1. Whatever touching x is B, so B is negative 6, not positive 6, and C is positive 7. So let's go to our formula. You should be very familiar with this formula here. There's a few key things just in case you're a little bit rusty. The formula says minus B. So if B is negative, two negatives sometimes touch to give you a positive. So be on the lookout for that. I have a good feeling it's going to happen today. And also in this brackets here, this pair of brackets, there's a minus sign waiting outside. So if we work this out and we get a negative number, and there's a negative waiting on the outside, that means two negatives could touch sometimes to also give you a positive inside here. But anyway, let's go ahead and plug in the formulas. So let me get well, let's see. B. How much is B in today's question? B is negative 6. I will erase this B and also put negative 6. 4 is part of the formula. A is how much? A is positive 1 and C is positive 7. And A, like we said, is 1. So in my previous videos, I told you that if you're working this out, you should probably work out this piece first from here all the way to here and then square root. Now it should be pretty easy to do this piece here. Minus 6 squared is positive 36. So over here we will get positive 36. 4 by 1 is 4. 4 by 7 is 28. So over here we get 28, but it's normal positive 28. So we have 36 minus 28. Well, 36 minus 28 should be 8. Sorry, one second, let's double check. 36 minus 28 is 8. So that means when we work this piece out, we get 8. So let's summarize what happened there. Two negatives touch to give you a positive. So you get positive 6. I don't really have to put the positive if I don't want to. Plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 28 is 8. And 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. Now, we're pretending we don't have a calculator. I'm going to try to simplify this to make it look like this. And when I finish simplify it, there will be something before the positive or negative, something after the positive or negative, and something underneath a square root. This topic is a mixture of quadratics and surds. Did you know that 8 is the same thing as 4, as 4 multiplied by 2. So you see what I did there? I threw away the 8 and replaced it with 4 multiplied by 2. It looks different, but it's mathematically correct. Now let's go through a little bit of revision here. If I have A multiplied by B and I have a square root here, remember this only works if there's a multiply or divide here. If I have A multiplied by B, this is the same thing as A multiplied by B, but each of them can have their own individual square root sign if you wish. So let's take an example. Let's say we have the square root of 50. Well, 50 is the same exact thing as 25 multiplied by 2. 50 and this is the same thing mathematically. Now, notice you have 25 multiplied by 2. That comes like A multiplied by B. So this can be simplified to 25 multiplied by 2. And both of them get square rooted at the same time. But here's the nice thing. The square root of 25 is very easy. We have learned that from primary school. We know from the top of our heads, the square root of 25 is 5. But you do not know the square root of 2. So you leave it as the square root of 2. Because I believe, well, if you don't believe me, try square rooting 2 on your calculator. You will not get a pretty value. It will be a number that goes on and on and on and on and on and on. So, why the square root of 25 is nice to write and easy to do, the square root of 2 is not a nice number. So we leave it as the square root of 2 because it looks neater that way. It looks nicer that way. I have just expressed the square root of 50 in third form. So let's apply this concept to this question here. Now, remember we had 8 over here, and 8 is the same thing as 4 multiplied by 2. Now, because both of them are multiplied, I can erase the big square root sign and give each of them their own square root. Let's clear some space here. So let's write this back. We have 6 plus or minus. The square root of 4 is very easy. The square root of 4 is 2. But remember, we should not square root 2 and put the long decimal. It will be impossible to write out the decimal in any case. So we're going to leave the square root of 2 as the square root of 2. It looks neater that way. And we have a big divide sign here where we are dividing by 2. So just in case you didn't know, if I have 2 items, A plus B, and I divide it by C, this really means that both items on top get divided by the item underneath. So I can rewrite it like A divided by C plus B divided by C. Great. So same thing here. This comes like A and this comes like B. So I'm going to divide both of them by 2. So this will give me 6 divided by 2 plus or minus 2 square root 2 also divided by 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. This 2 and this 2 will cancel out. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And what are we left with here? The square root of 2. You notice this resembles this. This is, well, let me put on my markers. This is P. P is 3. Q is the number outside, just outside the square root. So Q is 1 and K is 2. That's the end of this question. Right now, the reason I did this question first is because in one of my mock exams, there was a question very similar to this one. And well, I have to say all the students who did the mock exam got this one wrong. So I hope you guys understand it now. So coming up to question 2. Oh, by the way, you can keep track of the questions by the colored paper in the corner there. Alright, so question 2 is a directly proportional type of question. So if you've never seen a question like this before, don't worry. I'm going to try my best to explain it from scratch. Here we have a statement. A is directly proportional to B. Let's write that as a mathematical statement. A is directly proportional, that's the symbol for directly proportional to B. So I took the English here and translated it into a mathematical expression. So A is directly proportional to B. Now here's what you probably don't know. Anytime you see a proportional sign, it's perfectly okay to throw it away and replace it with an equal K. Right? So equal K can replace the directly proportional sign. K stands for constant. When you say something is constant, it means it's not changing. So anytime you see one of these directly proportional questions, your job is to find the value of K first. Once you find the value of K, guess what? It will remain constant. It will never change for the rest of the question. Once we find K, then we can go and complete the table and find the values of X and Y. So how do we figure out the value of K? Well, in the exam, this is how the question normally comes. In this case, here's A and B. So one row is named A, the other one is named B. You will notice that when A is 8, B is X. When A is 10, B at the same time is 4. And when A is 25, B at the same point in time is Y. Obviously, X and Y is what we need to find the value of. You will notice only one of these columns is complete, and that is the middle one. For the middle one, we have the value of A and the corresponding value of B. So we need to use these two values to calculate the value of K. So let's use this. A, according to this column, A is 10. We do not know K, we are trying to find that, but we know when A is 10, B at the same point in time is 4. So now we can use transposing to figure out K. In between here and here, there's a secret multiply. Throw across the multiply, we will get a divide. So that means K is 10 divided by 4. If you take 10 and divide it by 4, you will get 2.5 on your calculator. So now that we have figured out the value of K, and it's 2.5, that means for the rest of the question, it's going to remain 2.5. So this is what we know so far. Remember, A is equal to KB. Well, there's no reason to write K anymore because we just figured out K is 2.5. And between here and here, there's a secret multiply. So using this now, we can figure out X and Y. So let's proceed with the question, right? Right. I'm just changing the question a little bit. I realize I made the question a little too easy. Just forgive me. Do me a favor, right? Small change is not going to affect anything we did so far. I want you to put the 25 here instead and the Y here, all right? Don't worry, this doesn't change the value of K and we do not have to go back and do any working. Great. So here's what, X is missing. So how do we figure out X? Well, according to this column, when A is 8, B is X. So A is 8, it's equal to 2.5 multiplied by B. But how much is B? B is X. So all we have to do is solve for X. So we just throw across a multiply to get a divide. And this will give us the value of X. So X is 8 divided by 2.5. Let me get my calculator. 8 divided by 2.5 is, if you take these two and divide it, you will get 3.2. So that means my first answer, X, is actually 3.2. So we're almost finished. Let's find Y now. Remember, A is equal to 2.5 multiplied by b. In this one now, this column, a is y. So we replace the a with y. And we have to multiply by the value of b, which is 25. So to figure out y, we just have to take 2.5 and multiply by 25. 2.5 multiplied by 25 is 62.5. So that means y, I can erase it and put 62.5. And now the table is complete. Alright? So, I'm just double checking my answers. 8 divided by 3.2 and 62.5 divided by 25. Yes, we have no mistakes. Everything is good so far. So, I hope this was helpful. Let's move on to question 3. Alright, so to question 3. This question falls under trigonometry. And you'll notice this question, if you quickly look at it, it's a right angle triangle. So this question most likely will have something to do with Pythagoras theorem or normal sine, tan, and cosine. But let's get into this. This is one of the stranger questions I've seen going through a lot of past papers and going through a lot of textbooks and whatnot. So this is clearly a question that confuses a lot of students. In this one, they're asking you to solve for x and they give you this diagram. So obviously, a lot of students are stumped. They have no idea where to start. Now, let's see if we can narrow this question down to a particular formula. Remember normal sine, tan, and cosine? Remember when you're standing up in the angle. If I were to stand up here, this side would be my opposite. And the side opposite the right angle is your hypotenuse. And it seems I've been given information on my opposite and my hypotenuse. I have not been given any information on the adjacent side. So the adjacent has nothing to do with this question for the time. Which one of the formulas, sine, tan, or cosine, has opposite and hypotenuse in it? If you had guessed sine, then you are correct. So this is the formula we should use to get out this question. So sine theta, how do we find sine theta? If we block sine theta, remember, sine, well let me write here so I can have plenty of space. Sine theta is opposite divided by hypotenuse. So by using this formula and substituting the information inside there, I bet we can cross multiply and solve for x. So let's investigate this. So how much is theta? Theta is the angle we are standing up in. So sine theta, that means theta is 30 degrees. The opposite is 2x, so that it's an expression. And the hypotenuse is x plus 5. So don't let this scare you. If you type in sine 30 on your calculator, you will get 0.5 or a half. So we can throw away that sine 30 now and replace it with 0.5. And we all know 0.5 is the same thing as 0.5 divided by 1. So guess what, guys? It's a normal algebra question now. We can just cross multiply and solve for x. So let's go ahead here. Let's do this one first. 2x multiplied by 1 is 2x. It's equal to, this entire item gets multiplied by 0.5. So it's 0.5 multiply, and in brackets I put x plus 5. To indicate I want to multiply the entire expression by 0.5. So let's quickly expand these brackets. 0.5 by x is 0.5x. 0.5 multiplied by 5 is 2.5. Throw all the x's on one side. We get 2x minus 0.5x is equal to 2.5. 2 minus 0.5 is 1.5x is equal to 2.5. Let's solve for x quickly. Between here and here, there's a secret multiply. throw across the multiply, you will get a divide. So x is equal to 2.5 divided by 1.5. Let me quickly do that on my calculator. 2.5 divided by 1.5 is 1.67, or 1 2/3. Alright, so I really hope that you understood this question. And guys, stay tuned for my next video. In every video, for a little while, I'm going to be choosing 3 random questions that can help most Form 4s and Form 5s pass their CXC exam, right? So it's random, it's perfect for revision, and please make sure and go through all the video tutorials I have before you actually come here. These 3 questions in this classroom is strictly for revision. Okay, take care guys.